Somebody call the fire department. Women's wrestling is currently on fire. We also had a couple of CMLL championships change hands this past week in the world of professional wrestling. What a cheesy intro, nonetheless, guys. This is the Wrestling is Bullshit Report, episode 10. 10 full episodes. I know it's a little corny, but we're here, guys. We've done 10 episodes of the Wrestling is Bullshit Report. I feel like I've learned so much simply in 10 episodes, and I'm looking forward to doing 10 more and maybe even 100 more if the stars align and if you guys will have me. So I'm very excited to be here, guys. 10th episode. I know it's only 10 episodes. You're like, what the heck are you celebrating? But it means a lot to me, guys. We got to episode 10, and I look at where I was at when I made the first episode of Wrestling is Bullshit Report and where I'm at now, and I see growth. So I wonder, how much growth are we going to have at 100? How much growth could we have at 1,000? We'll probably be at an elite level by then. If we're not already there, I don't think we're already there, to be honest. I think we got a ways to go, but I have seen the progression in 10 simple episodes. So I'm happy to be here. Nonetheless, guys, let's get into it. And for those of you who don't know, we start this show off with the results. So let's see what happened in particular of notice in this week in the world of professional wrestling. We had Rhea Ripley return from injury. After a few short months of her being gone, the former women's world champion returned at the end of Monday Night Raw to confront Dirty Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan, just as Dominic Mysterio was seemingly giving in to Liv Morgan, who has been enabling him, antagonizing him, trying to get him alone, if you know what I mean, for months. And Dirty Dom has done a great job, if you ask me, of not giving in to Liv Morgan because Rhea Ripley is his lady, according to the television show. Nonetheless, just as it seems like Dirty Dom is about to give in to Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley's music hits and Mommy is back. So we're going to see what that story develops into within the next coming weeks. It seems like Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley is locked in for SummerSlam, and we'll see what happens with Dirty Dominic Mysterio and the Judgment Day and all those guys, as this story just took a very interesting turn. We also had on AEW Dynamite the Owen Hart Foundation tournament finals for the men and the women. We had Bryan Danielson win the men's, which I've talked about. And then we've also had Mariah May win the women's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. And it didn't take long for Mariah May to create a blood feud between Toni Storm and herself. Now, Mariah May has been at the side of AEW Women's World Champion Timeless Toni Storm since she got to AEW. This has been building for a good 8 to 7, maybe even 9 months. But right when Mariah May wins this tournament, thus granting her an AEW Women's World Championship match at the next pay-per-view, all in Wembley Stadium, she immediately turns on her friend Timeless Toni Storm in a vicious and bloody way, right? Covering Toni Storm's face in blood to close out the show. Awesome. Yeah, I think that this is good work here, and I'm really excited to see what becomes of Mariah May with this new heel turn, with this new character. And I think Mariah May versus Toni Storm is going to be awesome, because honestly, every championship match that Toni Storm has had with that championship has been fantastic. So now that we have a nice match, a nice blood feud, it's going to be good. It's going to be real good. It's going to be real good, no lie. Next, man, this is going to kind of be a spoiler alert for the news, but we'll try to keep it a buck here. We had Willow Nightingale winning the vacant CMLL World Women's Championship at Fantastica Mania, which was a New Japan and a CMLL show that took place this past Saturday. So Willow Nightingale is now a champion in CMLL. And that is just a reflection of how far CMLL has come. They used to stay in their corner and do their own thing for years, dare I say decades. And now, here they are, working super heavily with AEW, working super heavily with New Japan, and working super heavily with Revolution Pro Wrestling, which is out of the UK. So it's real interesting to see this kind of form together. It's going to be awesome to have Willow Nightingale working shows in Mexico and even bringing that CMLL World Women's Championship to AEW programming if she so wishes to do so. I don't know what's happening like right here, so I apologize for that. Normally the green screen works fine, but it's being super bullshit right now. So I'm sorry. Um we also had another CMLL championship change hands on Martes de Arena Mexico, which is Tuesday's Arena Mexico show every week for CMLL. And that was the Mexican National Trios Championship. So you see, you don't really see championships in CMLL change hands all that often, to be honest with you. You don't really see them defended all that often either, to be honest, on their television programming, at least. Championships don't mean too much in lucha libre culture in CMLL. What means more to that audience is the mask matches or mask versus hair matches, right? Because that causes permanent damage to a character. That's like the equivalent of a championship match in the lucha libre culture. So they have a ton of championships. I'm gonna be honest. Some of them do carry a lot of weight, but a lot of them don't. It's not like they have a main championship of the promotion. They just have a shit ton of championships. And then what really means something to the CMLL audience of Mexico is a luchador fighting a luchador, and the loser has to unmask himself. Or if they're not a luchador, they have to shave their head, either mask versus mask or mask versus hair. But nonetheless, man, we still get a championship change here. Very interesting. Good. I love covering CMLL, so I'm happy to talk about this. But that actually rounds out the results for this week, for this episode. And that puts us right into the news, which is going to be really interesting here as well. And I'm excited to talk about this point in particular. It has been reported and rumored that WWE is looking to bring in a Women's United States Championship as well as a Women's Intercontinental Championship on the main roster as soon as possible. This is something that they tested out in NXT with the NXT Women's North American Championship. And I don't even think it's been a month yet. Maybe it's been like 5-6 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, since that title was introduced. And it's working out so well that WWE is ready to implement women's mid-card championships on Raw and SmackDown, which is going to be very cool, very interesting. If it was the Vince regime in charge, I would have said this is ridiculous. This is way too many championships. But because I have nothing but faith and trust in Triple H and company, I think this is going to be great. And I think the roster is there for it, right? You got a lot of women that aren't exactly going to win the WWE Women's Championship or the Women's World Championship that could benefit greatly from being the Women's Intercontinental Champion or the Women's United States Champion. I think this is really cool, guys. I think this is really freaking cool. We're going to see some women's mid-card championships on the WWE main roster sooner rather than later. And I think it's going to do wonders for growing and representing a lot of women's wrestlers that may not be able to get the big one or may give them the tools they need to grow to get to the big one. That's the thing about the men is if you're able to win the United States or Intercontinental Championship, you're able to get reps in as a champion and make you or become that much more ready to win the big one. And that's I think that's going to be awesome for the women, to be honest. So really cool stuff here, guys. A lot of times, maybe Becky Lynch's main championship days are behind her if she ends up winning one of these titles. That could be interesting, really establish the championship. I don't know. Obviously, I'd much rather see like a younger woman get it. Like, I don't know, Zoe Stark. I'd love to see Zoe Stark as a women's mid-card champion on Raw, and then maybe like Candice LeRae or Indy Hartwell for SmackDown. Nonetheless, guys, I'm excited to see what these championships look like. I'm excited to see how they do. Next, unfortunately, this is some bad news. We actually had Riho on the AEW women's roster injured once again. It kind of sucks because it feels like she just got back from an injury and she was set for a serious feud with Serena Deeb, two AEW originals for that women's roster. I am a big fan of Riho. I think she's a fantastic pro wrestler, and she's actually the inaugural AEW Women's World Champion. So it sucks to see her get injured right after she got back. It really does. I hope that she has a good recovery, that she takes all the time she needs to get healthy. And when she comes back, I'll be ready to cheer for her again. No lie. Last but not least, guys, very interesting news. The former CMLL World Women's Champion, as well as World Women's Tag Team Champion, I hope I said that correctly, Stephanie Vaquer, abruptly left both CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling and showed up at a WWE live event this weekend. It happened so quickly, right? She abruptly relinquished the championships that she was holding in CMLL, which is why Willow Nightingale ended up winning that championship. And now she's in WWE straight up. I don't know if she's going straight to the main roster. I don't know if she's going to NXT. I don't know. I know she showed up at a WWE live event. And she did so very quickly. So good for Stephanie Vaquer. Who knew that the match that she had at Forbidden Door with Mercedes Moné was actually a WWE tryout? Shout out to Suplex. I think he pointed that out and said that. I thought that was funny and pretty true. So yeah, we'll see how she does in WWE. Good for her. If that's what's best for her career and her, then I'm happy for her. And I'm excited to see her. I think she's fantastic. She was fantastic in New Japan. She was fantastic in CMLL. She was fantastic in AEW. And she's going to be fantastic in WWE. So good on WWE. I think they got a real one over there. Last but not least, guys, we got the watch list. Yeah, let's get into it. Monday Night Raw, we have Sami Zayn defending the Intercontinental Championship against Ilya Dragunov. Cook. Tuesday, NXT, we have Oba Femi defending the NXT North American Championship against Duke Hudson. Cool. Wednesday, AEW Dynamite 250, a must-watch episode in my opinion. Will Ospreay will defend the AEW International Championship against MJF. And Mercedes Moné will defend the TBS Championship against Nyla Rose. 2 solid championship matches happening on AEW Dynamite. And then we got 2 more shows here, guys. One of them, they're going to be happening at the same time, but one of them I obviously recommend over the other one. We have TNA Slammiversary, one of 4 TNA pay-per-views happening in the year of 2024. I'm going to go down the card here, and of course, I recommend watching TNA Slammiversary. Big time. The Militia defend the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team titles against Spitfire. AJ Francis defends the TNA Digital Media Championship against PCO. Jordan Grace defends the TNA Knockouts World Championship against Ash by Elegance. Mustafa Ali defends the TNA X Division Championship against Mike Bailey. And Moose defends the TNA World Championship in a 6-way elimination match, which should be really interesting. A lot of interesting matches here that have been building up for months, including Jordan Grace and Ash by Elegance. This is definitely a must-watch, guys. If you have time on Saturday night and a little extra change to order the pay-per-view, I definitely recommend TNA Slammiversary. And then, of course, happening at the same time, which I don't really recommend watching over TNA Slammiversary, is AEW Collision, where Thunder Rosa will face Deonna Purrazzo in a lumberjack match. And don't get me wrong, no discredit to Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo. They've been having a really nice feud over the past few months, and they're going to have another chapter in that feud via a lumberjack match on AEW Collision. I would just recommend watching TNA Slammiversary. I'm very excited for the main event, which will see Moose take on 5 other men for the TNA World Championship in an elimination match. So it's going to be real cool, guys. I think TNA is going to be badass. That's pretty much the whole reason I'm making this episode, is because I know TNA Slammiversary is coming up. And if you were unaware that it's coming up, I hope this episode made you informed and you go ahead and check it out for yourself. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. This has been a fun episode, and I'll talk to you guys sooner rather than later. Just remember, stay cool, keep doing your best every single day, and don't overthink it.